So in today's video, we're building a Samsung DeX using an old damaged Samsung S20. This can be done using any Samsung from S8 and above. So I picked this Samsung S20 up from eBay. It cost me £35. It's got a little bit of damage to the screen and a lot of damage to the back. I also picked up this case from Amazon. I'll leave the link in the description for everything I'm using. And it comes with a lot of extras that we can use, so it's not a bad option. This is also a USB-C hub that we're going to have to use, which is a nice compact size. First thing we're going to do is plug it in and check that the DeX actually works. So you just simply plug USB-C hub in, plug it a HDMI to the TV, and there you can see we've got DeX outputting. This is another thing that I also picked up, a couple of plastic spacers, which are going to come in handy. And then I also picked up these USB-C right-angled connections. So first off, we'll turn the Samsung off, and now we need to get the back cover off. So I've got this iFixit kit, so in here's a good few things that we could do. So we've got a plastic lipper, these little blue lippers which also help, and also this metal device to prise it apart. So we've got a hot air gun, we'll just come in, and then we just want to heat along all the edges to melt all the adhesive. Don't want to leave it on there for too long because we don't want to be damaging anything internally or the screen or the battery. So just give it a quick run round, just melting it all off. You only need to leave it on for 30 seconds or so. And then we'll come in with one of the lippers. And then you can see straight away it's lifted up. Just run it along the side. You just need to be really careful because the back plate on this one is glass and we don't want to be getting splinters of glass on our fingers. And there's nothing attached to the back of this S20, so we can just peel it off and then we can put that to one side. So just come in with a little bit of tape just to pat down the sides and get rid of any of the glass shards. And now all we're going to do is literally take out all of the screws. So any screws that you can see, just start taking them all out. They're all the same size, which makes it nice and easy, especially if you were looking to put it back together. First thing we can peel off is the wireless charging cord. And then once we get that off, we can disconnect the battery. This will stop any shorts happening if we drop anything. And we can start disconnecting cables, looking for more screws, and then taking everything out. A couple more screws at the bottom, just remove that. And then this piece levers out. And then this power board at the bottom is something that we are going to need. So a couple of screws out of that. And then again, carefully just lever it out. Just take your time. If it's not moving, you may not have took a screw out. Condition wise, it's not too bad. Go back up to the top where the motherboard is. So there's a lot more little ribbon cables. So very carefully, just disconnect them. We don't want to be causing any damage. And then I start to try and wiggle out. And it seems to be stuck on something, so don't want to be prizing too hard. There's a couple of ribbon cables here, so they just need to be released. And then it's still struggling, and then I notice that the card slot at the top, which holds the SD card and SIM card, if that comes out, it's easier to remove. As you can see, the motherboard is very small, so this is going to help. We want to keep this as well because you want to have the expansion if needed. Next thing we want to do is be able to take out the battery. So this is stuck in really well. So first thing I'm going to try is a bit of isopropyl alcohol. You don't want to be tipping too much in. You just need to put a little bit around the edges and then try and get your lipper in. The problem is the lipper cannot get into a good position. So I decided to come with some heat. So I heated the screen. Again, you need to be really careful. You don't want to be too rough because you don't want to be damaging the battery itself. But my lipper fits underneath and then peels away with ease. So a mix of heat and isopropyl gets it out. So now it's all taken apart, we need to give it a quick test. We want to make sure that it still works before we carry on. So we'll connect these two cables, we'll connect the battery back up. We got our USB-C hub connected to HDMI, which is connected to a TV. The USB-C hub goes into the phone itself. I've got a mouse and a keyboard connected, and then as you can see on the screen, DeX is still showing, so we haven't broken it yet. We're also going to need the power switch. This peels out nice and easy, just get some tweezers and the whole thing slides out. Power button and volume on there. So the kit does come with a fan, but the connections aren't quite what we need. I already had this, a small fan with a USB-C connection on the end, so it's going to be the easy option for me. There would be a way to wire up the other one, but I don't really have the time, so I just need to cut the wires down because the wire is far too long on this, and then just make it a little bit shorter. Just cover up the wires, make sure that nothing gets touched, and now we've got a nice small USB-C fan. And then we'll wrap it around with a little bit of tape just to keep it nice and tidy. So the way this connection lines up, we need a little bit more movement. So the plan here is to come with a knife and very carefully just cut the plastic. Don't cut too far through or you're going to damage the battery and any connections. And then we'll just peel this back. And then as you can see, the power management board that's attached to the battery can fold out. And then this flips over, and then this is going to make it into the perfect position for us to put the motherboard on top. And the connection is going to line up. If we didn't do this, it would make it extra hard to be able to connect. Just apply a little bit of Kapton tape to the circuitry to make sure that nothing touches it to short it. We want to stay nice and safe. We don't want to be making anything that's going to be dangerous. Plenty of Kapton tape on there. Put a little bit more on the back if you need to. Just make sure it's nice and secure. And as you can see, it's going to line up absolutely perfect. But we've still got the cameras on there which take up a little bit of space, which we don't need. So we've got one connection on the back that we can lift up there. And then at the bottom, there's another connection that we just need to flip up. Just release that, and then the 3 camera modules move away. That takes up, again, a lot of space is gone, and it makes the motherboard even smaller and more compact. So with the Raspberry Pi housing, come with this heatsink and this fan mount. So hopefully this will be able to all fit in together. So the fan that I've got will fit in, but I'm going to need to use these spacers and screws. So luckily it comes with some extra long screws that will be able to thread all the way through. So we just put the 4 screws in each corner, tighten them up, and that'll be good to go. Also picked up a little bit of perspex, so I'm hoping to put this in different layers and then sort of build my way up. This will help separate and keep the parts in place. I've got these double-sided foam pads, and I've also got this double-sided tape. So I've cut my perspex sheets into the correct size, and then I've got my multi-tool, and I just need to drill some little holes in the corners, and then I'm going to put these spacers in. So the plan is to slowly build up different levels and attach different parts, and we're ready to keep everything spaced, so hopefully nothing overheats. So I started off with the longest legs because I felt that this was going to be the best way to go forward. So you literally just need to pop the screws into the top, pop the spacer legs into it. There's holes already in the bottom of the shell itself which I've lined up to. So we'll just pop them into place as you can see, and then that looks pretty good. I'm going to apply one of these double-sided pads to the bottom of the USB HDMI hub. And then the plan is to have the cable wired underneath and the USB-C cable running up. So pop that into place there, put a perspex on the top, put a battery in, and already you can see I'm struggling to get the fan in. and that's without any extra perspex. I didn't really want the motherboard sitting on top of the battery because they're going to give off too much heat, and as you can see, my fan's not going to fit in. So I'll then change the legs of the bottom to the medium size. So we'll swap all four over again, and then we start again. Pop the screws in the bottom just to make them nice and secure so we can check our measurements. And now we'll come back in with all our parts. So we've got the battery on the top, bit of perspex, the motherboard goes on the top, and it is fitting in okay, which is not too bad, but I'm still thinking that I've got a bit of wasted space at the bottom now. So I change my mind once again, and I take it back out, and I'm going to put the small legs on. I'd also put spacers on the top, because I was expecting to put another piece of perspex on the top of it as well, but that's not going to happen. So I'll just put the screws in, and then just come in with the smaller spacers that I've got. And then we just need to tuck the cable in underneath again, and then best as you can, try and tease it round, and then line the spacers at the bottom with the holes that are already pre-drilled into the shell, and then just tighten them up. The piece of perspex that I used was slightly too long. As you can see, it's touching the edge, so I probably should have trimmed it down a little bit, but it's not too bad. And now we've got the first part of our DeX desktop completed. I'm quite happy with the placement of the USB-C there. We're ready to plug directly into that, I think. Then we'll get one of our double-sided foam pads on top of the USB-C hub, and then we're going to place the battery nice and central. As you can see, we're going to push it down, and then I've got a little bit of perspex which I've cut smaller than it was previously, and I'm putting a little bit of double-sided tape onto this. Initially I used quite thin stuff, but I did go to the thicker stuff which I showed before. Pop the motherboard into place, and then just push it down, making sure it's nice and secure. Then that's secured the double-sided tape on top of the battery. Make sure it's in the correct position so when you need to, you'll be able to connect the battery connector. And then we'll get a little bit more double-sided tape for the power connection. So just trim it around a little bit. We don't need all the excess around the edges. Peel the backing off. And then this is going to go on the side. So connect the USB-C connection to it, stick it to the wall housing, and then connect the ribbon cable on the bottom. We also need the power button to be able to turn it on and off. So I'm just going to position it to see where it best fits. And then I'm going to get a small piece of perspex on behind it so that we can mount it to it. So that looks like it's going to be fine. So this way I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue. So I'm going to run the hot glue along the back of it. Give it a decent amount because you want it to stay on there. And then just position it nice and central onto the perspex. Push it down, leave it on there for a couple of seconds to let it stick. Then I'm going to make the connection onto the motherboard to make sure we got it lined up correctly, which we do. And then very, very carefully, we'll lift up and then we'll apply a nice blob of hot glue to the back. And then fold it down, stick the perspex on, be careful not to damage the connection, and then just hold that into place for a couple of seconds again, and then that'll be nice and secure. So we're slowly getting there, it's starting to come together, it's looking pretty good, nice and minimalist. So another thing that came within the kit are these thermal pads. So these aren't expensive, you can pick these up if you don't use this kit itself, but this seems to be the perfect size. So I'll pop it on top of this plate here. This seemed to get warm when I was doing my testing. So this is what I'm going to try and regulate the heat. So that fits in okay. And then I'm just going to cover this small piece here with some Kapton tape. I'm not sure whether it will short out or not, but it's not worth the risk. Peel the plastic covering off there. And now because there's a bit of play within the double-sided foam, I'm pulling down on the double-sided foam and I'm going to push in the thermal fan. It's a very tight fit, but it pushes in. As you can see, I've pushed it a little bit, but it's still okay, and that's secure right to the top, so I had no more wiggle room. But once I let go of the battery, the foam pad went back up to space, and now it's fitting in nice and secure. I'm just going to run this cable around the edge. We're going to plug the USB connector into the USB on the end, which will be hard to use anyway. So feed it back through, push it over a little bit, and then pop it in, make the connection. So that looks nice and neat. We just need to tidy up this wiring. So as you can see, it's going to fit into place there where the battery is. So again, come with a little bit of hot glue, run it around the side, and then just stick it down. Hold it again for a couple of seconds and it will make a nice solid contact, and that should stay there. And now we're pretty much done. So we've got a USB-C hub at the bottom. We've got a little bit of foam tape connecting the battery to the top of it. Then we've got a little bit of perspex between the battery and the motherboard. And then on top of the motherboard is our heatsink and fan to help with the cooling. Now we can connect the battery. So just get your tweezers, line up, and then pop it down. It's not too hard, especially as we've made the adjustment on the battery, so it helps to line up a lot better. And now we're all nicely together. It's all nice and compact, as you can see, top down. Just give it a little bit of twist to straighten up. So it's time to test. So we'll plug in our HDMI. We'll hold down the power button for a couple of seconds, just like you were turning on a phone. And then a couple of seconds later, we'll hopefully be getting the fan start, which we do. And there's also a blue light on this USB-C hub. So we've definitely got power going. And then we look at the screen, and then there you can see the Samsung DeX is outputting, and it's now working. So ideally you want to plug in a wireless keyboard and mouse. I don't currently have a wireless mouse, I've only got a wireless keyboard, so I've got a USB-C hub sticking out the back of the DeX, but that won't be what I'll be doing long term. The kit also comes with these plastic feet, so we'll just pop the 4 in the corners, and then these are just long enough to stick above the screws that come out of the bottom. They are plastic screws, so you can trim them if you wanted to. So I've had it plugged in for a while. I've got my thermal camera out, and as you can see, there's a little bit of heat generated, but nothing major. I'd like to think that big thermal plate and fan on the top will help to keep it nice and cool. So my final thoughts, it's a great build. It's not the hardest of builds. The hardest part's taking the phone apart, but even that's not too difficult. I like the look of it. It's very steampunky. You don't have to use this housing that I bought. There's a lot of other alternatives out there. It did cost almost as much as the phone, but the big plus point was it comes with a fan, comes with the heat sinks, it comes with a lot of the extras that you might need to buy anyway. So because of that, it is possibly worth the investment. Hopefully you watched my previous video where I show it in action. The link will show up at the end of this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.